following is a feature presentation of the Replay Sports Channel, the home for great games.
Hello again, everybody. Glenn Walker here, joining you from the Replay Sports Channel studios. And it's another weekly edition of WFL Inside Access. This week's episode, WFL Free Agency Frenzy. This episode of the Replay Sports Channel is being brought to you by Royal Retros, your ultimate one-stop shop representing the teams of the past. Head over to Royal Retros, www.royalretros.com today. Use the code REPLAY to get 10% off your order. The link will be provided in the show's description. The new league year just gets underway recently, and the 20 clubs of the WFL are looking to add to their rosters. The crew over at WFL Inside Access takes a look at some of the big signings.
Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping right into the absolute whirlwind that is WFL Free Agency.
It really is electric, more than just headlines, right?
Exactly. It's this intense period, maybe one of the most exciting parts of the league's business year, honestly. These decisions, they really do shape everything for the teams moving forward. So today, we're doing an exclusive look, really digging into the 2025 WFL Free Agency Frenzy. And we're pulling this straight from all the great analysis over on the WFL Inside Access Show.
Yeah, and our goal here, it isn't just to tell you who went where. We want to go deeper.
Right. Yeah.
We're going to break down the important bits, the insights behind these moves, help you understand the why, why it matters, and what it signals for the season ahead.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The one that immediately caught everyone's eye, you have to start here, right? The huge quarterback move.
Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. 19 years in the WFL, a true veteran, and he's moving from the Detroit Wheels to the Arizona Rattlers. Big shift.
Huge. And there's a lot going on there.
Definitely. Especially when you remember he missed all of last season. Sure. That Achilles injury.
And before Detroit, 14 seasons with Birmingham. Led them to 2 Pantheon Bowls, 2013, 2015. Took over from Brady in 2020. That's a serious history he brings.
It really is.
But what's fascinating here, I think, is you got to look at his time in Detroit. 5 seasons, only 2 playoff trips.
And both wild card losses, right?
Yeah.
First round exits.
Exactly. And last season, without him, Detroit was... Well, they were 2-12. They had the 6th round pick, Aiden O'Connell, under center.
Oof.
So you see the new head coach, Kellen Moore, he's clearly hitting the reset button. Trading away TJ Watt, an all-star linebacker, to Arizona for just a 2nd rounder, that screams rebuild.
Yeah, that sends a message.
And then you connect that directly to Arizona, Coach Deion Sanders, prime time, heading into year 3.
They made the playoffs last year, didn't they?
They did, yeah. But another wild card loss. So getting Rodgers wasn't exactly a surprise, especially after they sent Brock Purdy the other way to Detroit.
Okay, so it was kind of telegraphed.
Pretty much. Coach Prime's been very open about wanting veteran leadership on both sides of the ball, really. Needs it to improve that record, get further than just, a quick playoff appearance.
So, okay, here's the question then for you listening. Rodgers' age, that major injury. Is this a genius gamble by Coach Prime? High risk, sure, but high reward.
Yeah.
Or is it maybe a potential disaster waiting to happen for a team aiming for a deep playoff run?
Well, it's more than just signing a veteran, isn't it? This feels like Coach Prime pushing all the chips in, betting the franchise's immediate future on this one move.
Yeah.
It's absolutely high risk, high reward, an aging legend coming off a catastrophic injury. If it pays off, wow. It validates his whole win now approach, potentially makes them real contenders.
But if it doesn't?
If it doesn't, it could set their rebuild back significantly. Huge pressure on everyone there. It's definitely a tightrope walk they've signed up for in Arizona.
Okay, so while Rodgers grabs all the headlines, as quarterbacks always do, a lot of the critical work in free agency happens on defense.
Yeah.
Building those foundations.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You can't win without shoring up the defense.
Let's shift there. How are teams fortifying things? Because it's not just about the QBs.
No, not at all. And we saw a clear trend, actually. Teams going after veteran safeties, guys to help out younger secondaries, or frankly, just defenses that struggled last year.
Like Jimmy Ward.
Exactly. Jimmy Ward heading to the Baltimore Stallions from Detroit. He's a good
Yeah.
example. Drafted back in 2015, 4th round by Denver originally, spent the last few years in Detroit, had 38 tackles last season.
Okay.
His career path's been interesting too. Mostly a backup free safety, covered the slot a lot. But then in Detroit, new coordinator, they went to that cover 3 base defense.
Right, 3 deep.
Yeah. And they moved Ward back to his original free safety spot. He's had injuries, though. That's part of his story. Broken forearm in 2019. Missed time last year with the hip issue.
So he brings experience, clearly. But what's the real difference a guy like Ward makes? Someone who understands cover 3 can make checks compared to just, plugging in another young athletic guy.
That's the key thing. It's not just his tackling. It's the football IQ. He's like having another coach on the field.
Okay.
He brings that immediate veteran leadership. Baltimore secondary, they have Slay and Rasul Douglas at corner, but it's still a relatively young unit overall. Ward can make those pre-snap checks, the communication calls that prevents busted plays. It lets the younger guys just play faster, react instead of thinking too much. He's basically, an extension of the coaching staff out there.
Makes sense.
And we saw other moves too. Justin Reed, safety, goes to the Pittsburgh Maulers. He was with the DC Defenders, led them in tackles last year. 131 tackles, that's a massive number.
Wow.
And the Maulers' new coach, Mike Tomlin, he wants to fix that defense. They were dead last in the league. Reed's a big step, hopefully. And quickly, Jason Pinnock signed with St. Louis. Another safety, but noted for versatility. Can play corner, safety, helps on special teams too. Valuable piece.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. When a team wins the whole thing, like the Tampa Bay Bandits did, and then they start losing key players in free agency, the market kind of comes for the champs, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The price goes up. And we saw that with Tampa Bay. Cameron Jordan, defensive end, huge part of their defense, gone. Signed a big deal with the Chicago Fire almost immediately when free agents opened.
He was a cornerstone there for a long time.
Oh, yeah. 8th overall pick back in 2012, 4-time All-Star. Chicago obviously hopes he can give their defense a major boost. They were only ranked 15th last season. They need his impact.
Okay.
And then another big name from that Bandits defense, Eric Kendricks, veteran middle linebacker.
Right. Followed Jordan out the door.
Yep. 2016 second-round pick, All-Star in 2020. He landed with the San Diego Fleet.
San Diego needed linebacker help, especially with Van Der Esch retiring.
Exactly. Kendricks slots right in there. Big pickup for the Fleet's defense.
So for Tampa Bay, the defending champs, what's tougher to replace? Is it the raw talent, the pass rush of a guy like Jordan? Or is it maybe the defensive brain, the leadership of a middle linebacker like Kendricks, who's been there forever? What does this exodus mean for the Bandits' identity?
That's a really important question, and honestly, it highlights the tough spot champions find themselves in.
The champ tax.
Kind of, yeah. You either overpay to keep everyone, which can cripple you down the line, or you let key guys walk and basically have to reinvent your defense on the fly. Tampa's clearly chosen path number 2.
A gamble.
It's a gamble. They're betting they can develop new talent quickly. Now, replacing Jordan's specific pass rushing ability, that's hard, but Kendricks, his leadership, his ability to quarterback the defense, make the calls, that kind of on-field general, that can sometimes be even harder to replace quickly. His absence could really affect their whole defensive communication this year.
Interesting. Okay, so beyond the big defensive names, there are always those moves that fly a bit under the radar but are absolutely critical.
The unsung heroes.
Exactly. Like in the midfield, the offensive line.
Right.
Those foundational pieces.
Yeah, definitely some important moves there. Linebacker Jermaine Pratt signing with the Denver Gold is one.
Okay, tell me about it.
He was a second-round pick in 2020, came out of NC State, drafted by Arizona, actually. Started right away as a rookie in their base nickel defense, the package with the extra DB for passing downs.
Right.
Now he joins a Denver defense that's already pretty stacked. They've got Derek Brown up front, Foyesado Luakan at linebacker with him now, Jabril Peppers at safety. That's a strong group, getting even stronger.
Solidifying the core there.
Definitely. And then maybe the most critical under-the-radar move, center Bradley Bozeman going to the New York Generals from St. Louis.
The Generals' O-line woes.
Woes is putting it mildly. Look at the numbers. They're just stark. The Generals gave up 61 sacks last year. 61. That was the worst in the WFL.
Ouch.
Meanwhile, Bozeman was anchoring a St. Louis line that only allowed 17 sacks. Third best in the league.
Big difference.
Huge. And he's a big dude. 6'3", 317 pounds. You see what head coach Dan Quinn is doing there. It's a very clear, direct move to fix their biggest, most glaring weakness.
Okay, I hear those numbers, 61 versus 17, it's night and day. But, offensive line's about 5 guys working together, right?
Yeah.
Can one center, even a good one like Bozeman, really turn around a sack rate that bad?
Yeah.
Or is it just like putting a Band-Aid on a bigger problem?
It's a fair question. O-line is chemistry, but the center is the quarterback of that line.
Okay.
Bozeman's impact isn't just his own blocks. He solidifies that pivot point. He makes the calls, identifies the fronts, directs the protection for everyone else. His presence should allow the other guys on that line, the existing talent, to actually do their jobs better.
So he elevates the whole unit.
That's the idea. It's not just a patch. It's like laying a new foundation. It could potentially unlock their entire offense if he stays healthy and gels quickly.
It really is like a high-stakes game of chess, isn't it? Moving these pieces around, millions of dollars, careers. These guys who don't always get the headlines, but their play decides games.
Absolutely. What this free agency period really shows us, again, is just how dynamic and strategic it all is. Every single move, the big QB splash like Rodgers, but also the quieter signing of a center like Bozeman, it all sends ripples across the league.
Yeah.
Teams are trying to find edges, fix holes, maybe even completely change who they are, all in the space of a few weeks. It's fascinating to watch a team's identity shift so fast.
It really is. And that brings us to our final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Forget the splashy headlines for a second. Forget the big names we just spent time on. Which one of these may be less talked about foundational signings? Maybe a center like Bozeman, or a versatile safety like Pinnock, or even a linebacker like Pratt. Which one do you think might end up having the most surprising, maybe the most significant impact on their team's success this coming season?
Yeah, who's the under-the-radar guy who really moves the needle?
Exactly. Keep an eye on these teams as we get closer to the WFL season. Hopefully this deep dive gives you a bit more context, a bit more insight to follow along with.
Thanks again for listening to WFL Inside Access, brought to you by Royal Retros. Head over to Royal Retros today, www.royalretros.com. Use the code REPLAY to get 10% off your order. The link will be provided in the show's description. Be sure to join us next time for the 2025 WFL Schedule Release Show. Have a great day.